So hello and welcome, Kim Knight here. And today our topic is how to open a closed heart. So let me start by sharing some pretty scary statistics. In 2008, 1 in every 4 deaths in the USA, and we could say, this is probably typical of the Western world as well, was caused by heart disease. And by 2017, that has become 1 in every 3. And approximately every 40 seconds, this is quite sobering, every 40 seconds, somebody dies of heart disease. And in 2016, it was said that it was the leading cause of death for both men and women. About 92 million Americans are living with some form of cardiovascular disease or the after effects of a stroke. And the costs of managing this is more than $316 billion, estimated to rise to 1,044, don't know how they come up with these numbers, but over $1,000 billion by 2030. So looking after our heart is obviously a pretty important thing. So how can you look after your heart? Our agenda today, what we're going to be looking at is, what is a closed heart? Why do we close our hearts? What are the consequences of a closed heart? And I think I've just shared some of those. And what are the benefits of an open heart? And how can we start to open our heart? So let's look first of all at what is a closed heart. Well, most people, when they think of their heart, they might think of the physical organ in the center of their chest. But we have organs in our body, tissues in our body, and every organ and tissue has both a biological and a biological function. Another way of putting this is that every organ or tissue in the body has a physical and a metaphysical function. So physically, for example, our digestive tract has to digest our food, but metaphysically, our digestive tract has to digest our life. And really, what we're talking about there is it has to be able to digest our emotions. And in fact, every organ and tissue in the body has some sort of role to help us process our emotions. And if we're holding a whole heap of negative emotions inside of us, like anger, sadness, grief, fear, that is going to have a physical impact on our physical organs, tissues, cells, molecules, right down to a quantum level. Right, so that's quantum physics. So we talk physics, we talk quantum physics, and really what I'm interested in is what is the metaphysical cause of physical problems. So we have this biological and biological function for every cell, tissue, and organ in the body. And the word meta is not some woo-woo word. It just means beyond, above, right? That's what meta means. So it's beyond physical. So let's look at the heart, and in particular the pericardium. So the pericardium is the sac which surrounds the heart. And so physically we have a pericardium, but according to Chinese medicine, we have an energetic protector around our heart literally called a heart protector. And it's not a physical organ, it's known as a metaphysical organ, and it has a very important function. Now, another really interesting thing, just to give some backup to make sense of all of this, is that every organ and tissue in the body has a direct relay or link to a specific area in the brain. And actually, every organ and tissue in the body has a direct relay with one of 4 specific areas of the brain. And for the purposes of what we're going to be looking at today, we're going to be talking about part of the brain called the cerebellum. which is considered one of the older parts of the brain. So we have two newer parts and two older parts, and that just means that these older parts developed earlier. So the brainstem and the cerebellum developed before the cerebral cortex and the cerebral medulla, or the neocortex. Neocortex means newer part of the brain. So we're looking at an older part of the brain here. And the pericardium has a direct relay with this part of the brain, the cerebellum. And what's really, really fascinating is that researchers and scientists, they found and discovered this information through MRI scans and CT scans. And what they discovered through embryology, the study of embryology, which is the study of the embryo in the uterus forming, is that initially there were 3 tissues in the embryo, and out of those 3 tissues, the endoderm, the mesoderm, the ectoderm, every other organ and tissue in the body was created. And this is how they can link up what organ is related to what part of the brain. So we're looking here at the cerebellum, and the physical job of the pericardium, we're looking at the pericardium, which is related to the cerebellum. So the physical job function of the pericardium is protection. And the pericardial sac has 2 layers. This sac cavity contains pericardial fluid and it surrounds the heart. And the main job is to protect against infection and to provide lubrication for the heart. Because as we know, if we don't have a heart, we're not alive, right? The heart, as all the organs in the body, the major organs, the lungs, the heart, the liver, the stomach, the spleen, the kidneys, these are absolutely essential organs. Some organs we can live without. We can live without a spleen, we can live without a gallbladder, we can live without our sexual organs, our uterus, etc. But certain organs we cannot live without. So the body has to make sure that certain organs are really protected, and the heart is probably number 1 on the list. So when we look at these brain relays, we also understand that there are certain what we call emotional conflict themes connected with one of each of these brain relays. And the particular emotional conflict theme connected with the pericardium, which is connected to the cerebellum, is protection. So whereas the pericardium has a physical job of protecting the heart physically, the heart protector, this energy organ, has a job of protecting us, protecting our integrity, protecting us from defilement, protecting us emotionally, you could say. So it has a very important job. So we have the physical protection from a physical perspective, and we have emotional protection from a metaphysical perspective. So what are we protecting ourselves against emotionally? Well, in one word, I could sum this up as hurt. So we store hurt in our heart, and we try and protect ourselves from feeling hurt in our heart. And some of the core hurts that we're trying to protect ourselves from are things like shame, humiliation, and betrayal. So you might like to think to yourself, you know, have I ever felt hurt? Have I ever felt shamed or been shamed? Have I ever been humiliated? Have I ever felt betrayed? Because if we've had these experiences, they register in the heart, and then they also register in the brain, and they actually register in the whole body. But they have a deep effect on our heart at this energetic, emotional level. So our heart is an incredibly intelligent organ, and so is every organ. According to Chinese medicine, each of these major organs have a spirit in them. So the lungs have a spirit in them, the liver has a spirit in them, the heart has a spirit in them. So we have a very, very intelligent body, And that's why I put this quote here by the Dalai Lama: an open heart is an open mind. And the reason I've put this quote here is that in Chinese medicine, the heart is very connected with our consciousness and with our mind, which in Chinese medicine is called Shen. So our heart and spirit are connected. So we could say also then that our heart and spirit are connected to our higher self, or our true self, or whatever you see as that bigger part of you that is beyond just your physical body. So our heart and consciousness are connected. And I've talked about this in another video, in my 3 brains video, is that we have 3 brains in our body, and our heart is a brain. We have a head brain, a heart brain, and a gut brain. Scientists have been talking about this for the last few years. They say, wow, we've discovered that we have 3 brains in our body, not just in our head. Actually, Chinese Qigong masters have been saying this for thousands of years, and science is just catching up. But the heart the brain in our heart has its own network of neurons, and it has a magnetic field 5,000 times stronger than the head brain. If you want to find out more about that, go and look up heart math. Lots and lots of information about the intelligence of the heart and the heart brain. So what is a closed heart? Well, you know, why do we close our heart off? Well, as I've already alluded, we close off our heart energetically and emotionally. And usually this is done unconsciously, and then we forget what it felt like before we closed our heart, because it happens slowly over time. We can actually have events where there is a big closing down in just one moment, but this closing of our heart energetically and emotionally, it happens bit by bit by bit by bit. And often it happens very early on in childhood, often in the first few years of life. And so we don't have this conscious cognition or recognition that we're doing it, but it's happening. And it usually happens because we're feeling some of those emotions that I shared before. We're feeling shamed, humiliated, betrayed, abandoned, alone, angry, sad, unhappy, lots and lots of emotions. And to protect ourselves energetically and emotionally, we close down our heart, but we don't know we're doing it. And so we build what Dr. Bradley Nelson has called a heart wall. So one of the therapies that I've trained in multiple therapies to help people clear energy and emotions from their body, but one of them is called the Emotion Code. And he calls it a heart wall. And we literally build a wall made of energy, and we take that energy from all the emotions that we've stored inside of us. Now, I've talked about it before in other videos. We are, at our core, we are an energy being, and every part of us is energy, even our physical body. If you go down to a quantum level, look at it under a microscope, we are energy. So we store energy inside of us, and a physical law or a law of physics is that energy cannot be destroyed. It can be transformed. Water can turn into ice, water can turn into steam, but it doesn't just disappear. So we take this energy very intelligently, unconsciously. We take this energy, the hurt, the betrayal, the despair, the devastation, the shame, all this energy, and we energetically build a wall around our heart to protect us from further hurt. So we build this wall of energy. And obviously, all these emotions are generated as a result of the negative experiences that we experience. So if you grow up in an environment where all the time you're being punished, you're being hit, you're being abused, you're being told you're stupid, lots and lots of negative conditioning and behavior towards you, that hurts, right? And that is a natural response from the heart to feel hurt. And we don't want to feel that anymore. So we start to build this wall of negative emotions, which becomes this heart wall. So we close our heart to protect ourselves from feeling hurt, shame, betrayal, humiliation, etc. And there are other emotions, also anger, sadness, fear, mistrust, but these emotions tend to relate more to other organs, and we're focusing mainly on the heart in this video. And the consequences then of this heart wall, this energy that's trapped inside our body, is that we start to experience all the things that we don't want to experience, which is more of the emotions which were trapped inside us anyway. But we also experience a lot of sadness, a lot of disappointment, a lot of unfulfillment, lack of success, problems turning up in life. So lots of life problems. We're not getting on in relationships. We're not being successful in our career. And also it leads to severe illness. It leads to severe unhappiness, and then if that continues, then it leads to severe physical symptoms. So basically our life doesn't go very well. And we also experience a lot of these negative emotions. We're going to experience bitterness, resentment, hatred, cruelty, impatience, intolerance, unhappiness, lack of joy, loneliness, isolation. So the signs of a closed heart, and there's no judgment here, right? Nobody wants to close their heart. We do it to protect ourselves. It's a survival mechanism at an emotional level. But what happens is we experience all the negative stuff ongoingly, which is not pleasant. And so if we're experiencing any of these things on an ongoing basis, the bitterness, the resentment, hatred, cruelty, and that's not just to other people, that's towards ourselves as well, then these are signs of a closed heart. And what we're also going to find is, because we have this heart wall, we're going to find it difficult to receive love from others, and we're going to find it difficult to give love to ourselves. And even if we keep saying with our head, I want more love, I want more love, I want more love, we're just not going to be able to receive it, because there's this unseen, unconscious, hidden, almost like transparent, but it's there, heart wall. And we're also going to find it hard to love others. We may want to love others, but we'll find it difficult. And we're going to find it difficult to enjoy life. So we keep love out and we prevent it coming in. And we also keep other good stuff out. We keep out abundance, we keep out happiness, we keep out success. And it's not that we're wanting to keep this out, it's just a natural knock-on consequence of our heart being closed. So obviously on a physical level, there are physical consequences as well. When we close our hearts and we have this energetic blocking up of our hearts, then that is going to have a knock-on effect, along with other factors, to things like heart disease, heart attack, heart failure, so all the typical physical consequences that people think of. Now, that's only a little part of it. There's more to why people will create heart disease and heart attack and heart failure, etc., etc. But this is most probably a contributing factor. So, breaking news. If you're experiencing a lot of the negative stuff, the stuff that you don't want anymore, then here's a bit of, exciting information. All the love you could ever want is already inside your heart right now. It's right there, right now. If you're not feeling it, then that's because there's this heart wall, right? There's energy that's blocking. But the reality is, and the truth is, an infinite supply of love is inside your heart and everybody's heart right now. So I want to share an experience where I totally got this, not at a theoretical level, but I got it on an experiential level. And I was in one of my training courses, and we were doing an exercise with partners, practicing techniques, and just spontaneously in the middle of this exercise, I felt like literally like my heart opened, and the best way I can describe it is all this liquid, loving light, golden energy. It's very hard to put words on it, but it literally started to pour out of my heart. And I knew that in order to allow it to come out fully, I needed to open myself up and be more vulnerable. And in that moment, that meant bursting into tears. But the interesting thing was I didn't feel brave enough to do that in that moment. And I consciously stopped myself doing that. And I literally felt all that energy start to go back inside my heart. But what that taught me, I absolutely knew and know now that there is an infinite supply of love inside our hearts. And all spiritual teachers talk about this. And now I know what they mean. So my work now is to continuously work on reopening the heart so that I get to experience that more and more. And that is your job, or your, well, not job, but, you know, if you want to do that, then you can do that too. I've had other experiences as well where I've really been able to tap into, through meditation, this deep, infinite well supply of love inside my heart. But it hasn't been like an ongoing, up until now, you know, ongoing permanent experience. But I've had enough experience of it to know that it is the truth. So the reality is that we never have to look outside our hearts for love, although obviously it's very nice to receive it. But we need to know that all the love that we actually ever want is already inside of us. And most people spend most of their time looking outside for love, looking to other people for approval, looking, you know, that's why a lot of people get into relationships, is that they want to feel loved. But really, as we get more mature and emotionally mature and spiritually mature, we have to go more and more inside. And we have to find these positive virtues, as they're called in Chinese medicine, this positive energy. We have to find it inside of us. And that is real human maturity. And this is where humans, as far as I understand it, are evolving to. And this is where spiritual teachers and masters, this is the state that they live in ongoingly. So most humans have a long way to go to reach this state. And I remember my first Qigong teacher saying, we're just in kindergarten. We think we're so clever, we have all this technology, but actually we're just in kindergarten. And actually I was watching a webinar this week on environmental medicine. And in 1905, that our brain power was actually more intelligent than what it is now. Even though we have all these modern inventions, our IQ was actually higher in 1900 than it is right now. So when we cultivate our own internal love, we experience more love coming from the outside. So that's also another reason why we need to turn our attention inwards, because when we cultivate this love inside of us, then as a natural consequence, we're going to more easily be able to receive that love from the outside, because this barrier, this heart wall, starts to dissolve. And so there's less of a barrier between us and the outside world. Because what's really interesting about our heart is that it's a two-way street of information. So if you imagine you have this energetic covering around your heart, and if that energetic covering is really, really strong and it's made of lots and lots of emotions, and you have a very thick heart wall, then nothing can come in and nothing can go out, right? It's a two-way street. So this is why it's so important to start breaking down this heart wall. And of course, as we start to open our heart, then we start to experience love, happiness, respect, joy, abundance. These are the natural qualities of the heart. So one of my meditations, my what is it? My can't remember what it's called. Smile Your Way to Inner Peace series. It's all about going into each organ, the heart, the liver, the lungs, the kidneys, the stomach, the spleen. We go in there and we clear out all the negative emotions, and then we make contact with all these positive emotions which are already there. So it's not just all the positive emotions in our heart and all the love that is already in our heart. We already have an abundance, for example, of kindness in our liver, and an abundance of respect and courage in our lungs, an abundance of trust in our stomach and spleen, an abundance of gentleness in our kidneys. These are the natural qualities or virtues that are naturally found inside our body, inside certain organs. And our job is to clear away the clouds so that we can connect with the sunshine. So you know what it's like when you're in a plane and you take off from the airport and it's really rainy and cloudy, and you think, oh, it's a really horrible day, and then you get up, you start taking off in the plane, and you go above the clouds, and all of a sudden the sky is really blue and the sun is shining brightly. So this is our work. Our work is to clear away these clouds so that we can connect with these energies, these virtues, which are already there. And one of the another really interesting thing that I've been learning more recently is what we call the 5 qualities of the heart, and Shin means heart. So 5 qualities that we absolutely must cultivate are trust, openness, love, gratitude, and reverence and humility, which in Chinese is called Gongjing. So when we cultivate trust and openness, it was like we grow these things, and we have to actively do it. When we cultivate trust, openness, love, gratitude, reverence, respect, humility, this allows the heart to open. So how can we, or how can you protect and open your heart? So let's do a little mini experience. And obviously, if you're driving right now, don't do this. But if you can sit down or lie down, then I invite you to close your eyes and experience a little mini taster of this new series that I'm currently preparing on cultivating these 5 qualities of the heart. So I invite you to close your eyes and just take a few deep breaths, just in your own time. Closing your eyes brings your attention inside your body, brings our attention inside so we don't have to drain our energy using our outer senses, our eyes, our ears. They all drain energy. So just bringing your attention inside your body. And we're going to go deep into your heart, just to get a taste of what it feels like to open the heart. So when the door of a room is open, we can go in and out of that room freely. But if the door is locked, we can't. So what does openness mean to you as a human? Openness plays a crucial role in the health and normal functioning of life. So what makes our life open? An open heart. The heart is like the doorway of life. When our heart is open, our life is open. It's free. And being open is a natural state of life. When our heart is not completely open, there must be something blocking the way, causing the heart to close up. And when our heart is closed, our life becomes closed. So an open heart is crucial for the health of our life and the health of our consciousness. When our heart and our consciousness, our mind are open, energy and information can flow in and out in a healthy and natural way. But if our heart is closed, the flow of information will be blocked. And this can affect all aspects of our life. When we close our heart, it's a form of self-isolation, self-restriction, withdrawal, and self-imprisonment. It's an unnatural and unhealthy state of life because freedom is taken away. What does it feel like when my heart is closed, and how can I tell? There are many telltale signs. For example, difficulty accepting or receiving, indifference, apathy, fear of change, stubbornness, strong attachment to my own views, oversensitivity, lack of joy, feelings of gloom, pessimism, rigidity, lack of confidence, arrogance, or self-importance. We can also experience constant hardships, difficult relationships, or maybe the feeling that life is a dead end with little hope and few opportunities. So what should I do when any of these show up? I should first ask myself, where do these unpleasant experiences come from? And do they have anything to do with my heart not being open enough? What then does it feel like to have an open heart? Let's use an exercise to feel what it's like to be open. Relax your eyebrows. Relax your chest. Relax your heart. Your heart is completely relaxed. Your heart is nothing but beautiful, bright light. Expand this bright light. Let the bright light radiate from your chest and penetrate everything as it extends out. Extending out to your body, to all the people around you, to the whole world, to the whole universe. See everything lit up as your heart expands. Feel the open space inside your chest and the feeling of total ease and freedom. Your heart is opening up like a beautiful flower. It looks so natural and its beauty is beyond words. If you're feeling different now, it's because you've taken the initiative to open your heart. There are many ways to do this, but however you choose to do it, the secret, the golden key, is to take initiative. Continue to be in this open state and imagine how wonderful life would be if your heart stayed open this way. You would be able to touch the hearts of many people and make beautiful connections with them. You would be able to learn more about yourself and about life. You would feel more confident and positive. You would have more success in everything you tried to achieve. People would find you more receptive, more trustworthy, more thoughtful, and more approachable. Continue to use your heart to perceive the essence of openness. It holds the wisdom you need to guide you. Connect with the universe so its infinite wisdom can continue to lead your heart towards its ever shining bright light. When you open your heart, you build the highway that connects you with yourself and with the world. Just notice how you're feeling. Take a few deep breaths. And when you're ready, open your eyes. So how does your heart feel? And did you experience any level of opening and openness? And what did that feel like? And can you imagine what it would feel like to be like that 24/7? Because it is possible, but it takes work. And there are 3 levels I feel that we need to look at this at. We need to love ourselves, we want to love others, and we want to love all of life. So these 3 levels always that I look at life. It's like we first of all, we have to deal with ourselves, deal with our stuff, and then we have a connection with other people, and then we have a connection with all of life. So that's the world, beyond, the universe, everything. So 3 steps to opening your heart. First of all, we have to become aware that maybe it's not as open as it could be, because when we're used to something, it just becomes the norm. And usually people say phrases like, well, that's just how I am. That's how I was made. No, we became like that. We're a continuously evolving being. So we have to become aware of, okay, well, where am I now and could it be different? And then we have to have a desire to change. We have to have an intention. And in that little meditation, it's called initiative, taking the initiative to open the heart. If we don't have that thought, that desire, that decision, then nothing's going to change. So we have to have an intention that we want things to be different. And then, of course, we've got to take action. We've got to do something about it, because it's not going to happen by itself, right? We need to do something. And that's where personal development comes in, personal growth, whatever tactics, strategies, techniques we can learn to clear away the old energy and cultivate these 5 qualities, and in fact all the virtues, but in particular for the heart, the trust, the openness, the love, the gratitude, the respect. And we need to cultivate those things, as I said, for ourselves, for others, and for the whole of life. So I'd like to invite you, it's not ready yet, it may be by the time somebody watches this video later, but right now, today, as we're recording it, it's not ready yet, but I am preparing my Opening Your Heart to Love meditation series, which is all about building trust, building openness, cultivating love, developing gratitude, experiencing deep reverence and humility, really cultivating these 5 heart qualities so that we can open our heart and we can start experiencing more of the good stuff and stop experiencing all the stuff that we don't want to experience. So literally transforming our world from the inside out. So if you want to know more about that, just keep your eye on my website, be signed up to the e-news, be on my Facebook page, and I hope that this has been useful and inspiring for you. For me, this is very important. I've had to do a lot of work, and I've still got lots more work to do on, on opening my heart and cultivating these 5 Shin qualities. So I wish you a beautiful rest of the day.